Today on Live Wild, I'm joined by Niall Breslin. Many of you will know Niall as Bressie and the former frontman of the Blizzards, but over the years his work has evolved far beyond music, into social change, mental health, and challenging how we support people in a world that often feels overwhelmed and at times like the systems around us are struggling to keep up.
Look, what are the UK doing? What's the Nordic countries doing? What's France doing? Stop. What are we going to do? Stop looking for best practice all the time internationally and look what we can create. With the academics like myself who are trying to figure out what it is that we do. There's so many of us that want to build a better system. And it's not just about money. It's not just about funding. That is just too simple. We need an entire, as the Mental Health Commission said, a root and branch change. What does that mean? Let's start again. Let's look at the system. Let's look at all the aspects. How do we support the parents? How do we support the teachers? How do we support people that take care of our children? And most importantly, how do we take care of the children?
Through his work, he's been part of a much bigger conversation about how we care for ourselves and each other. In this episode, we talk about his latest project, The Place That Has Never Been Wounded, and the idea of the North Star, that inner compass we can return to when everything feels uncertain. We explore creativity, anxiety, sitting with discomfort, and what it really means to come back to yourself in a world that doesn't always make that easy. It's a really honest and thoughtful conversation. Here we go. Niall Breslin, you're on the Live Wild podcast. How
are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm grand. It's been sunny for the first time in 7 years, so I'm delighted with it. And I'm actually, do you know, you take out the sun cream because like you take it out and it's rock hard. So I always buy that really cheap sun cream as well. You know, the stuff that you get like in like deals. Yeah. And it's going to have any impact on you. So mine is now solid. It's retired. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I need the sun cream, but it's only like 14 degrees. But do you know, whenever the weather's nice in Ireland, I just sit there and I wait for the first media platform to go hotter than Tenerife in Ireland.
Nice.
They just keep breathing. The minute it goes up, they're watching the temperature dial and went, 15 degrees, right? We're in.
Yeah,
hotter than Tenerife.
That's it.
Everywhere. Can't
Job done.
That headline.
You know, you need to get yourself the aerosol spray tan, or not spray tan, but the aerosol sun cream.
I only use that on Saturdays.
Yeah.
It's pretty expensive nowadays.
Very expensive.
On every day, like.
Very expensive. Yeah, the aerosol sun cream that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah, I'll get that next year when the sun shines next year in 12 months' time.
That's it. That's all you need it for. Just keep it in the car. Just spray it when you need it.
Amazing.
Niall, I've loved watching your evolution as an artist. That's why I always think when I see the work that you've done, it's an evolution as an artist, like from being the frontman of the Blizzards, which was such a, pop force in Ireland during that period, into television, and then into all your amazing work in the mental health industry and drawing from all your personal experience. Like, it feels like for me, from the outside looking in, that all the work that you've previously done is kind of coming full circle, in the sense that you've described yourself as a polymath. I totally see that in you. But did it take time for you to kind of integrate all those different parts of yourself into the work that you're currently doing now?
I don't think I have managed to do that, to be honest. I think modern culture and society and the thing that kind of where a lot of us have to work, unfortunately, on in terms of social media, it doesn't like that. It likes niches. It likes somebody picking their lane and staying in it. And I think people like that too. I don't think people know what to say when someone goes, well, I do different things. I think we like to label people very quickly, and so allows us to make sense of them. And this is what that person does, so this is what they must be. And I think what happens is we create these mental models of people. So that guy is a journalist, so this is how he must think. Like, you can meet 10 journalists with 10 different ways of thinking. Same with musicians, same with artists, same with athletes. So for me, I hate putting people in boxes, and more than that, I hate being put in one. And I think ultimately, when I look at everything I do, if people were to say what was the one thing that you do, I'd say creativity. I love creating things, and even looking at problems and creatively looking at them. Because if you look at a problem, say like the mental health system, and you look at that conventionally, like a bureaucrat or somebody who's used to just lining off ways of fixing problems, you won't solve the problem. I think the creative brain is very good at solving things because that's what it is.
Mm.
It finds a way around obstacles, whether you're writing music or whether you're studying or you're doing your academic work or you're working with the charity. You still have to solve problems creatively,
Mm.
and the idea of trying to solve them conventionally, it's over. That's why we're looking at a completely dysfunctional system. It's
Mm-hmm.
because the people making decisions don't know how to think creatively.
Mm. That's so interesting. When you look back at, all your work in mental health has been so amazing, and it's been such a wonderful journey to witness as well. Um, Looking back at the time when you were in the blizzards, that was a huge commercial success. At the time, did you feel that it aligned with how you were feeling internally?
Mm, yeah, it did in a way because ultimately as well with the band, I mean, we were relatively successful in Ireland, but we certainly weren't commercially successful. I think commercially successful is you make a living from it, and if you have
Mm-hmm.
kids, you're able to support your kids or that kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. Ultimately, why the band had to stop is we couldn't, and
Mm-hmm.
the guys had children, and we were looking at each other going, "This is so overwhelming because we're not making money, we're spending a lot of money." And touring became next to impossible. Actually, touring has become more difficult recently, especially since COVID. And I think people keep saying the music industry is in a great place. It is if you're Taylor Swift.
Mm.
It is not a particularly good place to tour for bands so commercial.
Why is that? Before we move on, why is that? Do you
The
think?
costs, the costs are absolutely extortionate. They are
Mm.
absolutely massive to tour. And like I sold out Irish tour recently, and I won't even tell you how much money I lost. It was a sold out tour. So you're not even
That's
conventional. You
insane.
can't make sense of it. But with the band, I think the thing that got me through with the band, regardless of how where I was mentally, was I was very close to the guys.
Mm.
I grew up with a lot of them guys. I went to school with them. They kind of knew me. They allowed. I was a difficult person to be around at times when I was mentally at my lowest,
Mm.
and they kind of made space for it in a way. So that was the reason it was. But I also it was such an outlet. People would say, "Would you not? Somebody who's struggled with their anxiety for so long, like why would you stand on stage? That's the perfect place for me because I can't think.
Yeah.
There's no thinking on stage."
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't get that. I don't have social anxiety. I am absolutely perfectly fine standing up on stage
Mm-hmm.
or speaking in front of people. It doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I'm on my own and have time to think.
Mm.
And I start going into hilarity and craziness and stuff. So that's why the band actually worked quite well for me. Gave me
Mm.
an outlet, gave me a place where I couldn't think. And that's why you often see musicians who might struggle with their minds finding comfort on stage.
Absolutely. I think it's not just musicians, but a lot of creative artists. It's like you're in a flow moment. It's pressurized, almost like it's a pressurized moment, but you don't necessarily feel pressure in that moment. It's high performance moment where you're in total
Well,
flow.
you back yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have the work done, like
Mm-hmm.
in acting or whatever. You don't walk up onto a stage or onto like a set without your shit together.
Yeah,
You need to have your
absolutely.
shit together. You got to be professional. You got to show up, and you got to. The only question you should be asking yourself, no matter what it is, whether it's music, acting, sport, is when you're standing there, you're going, "Have I done the work? I have. Grand."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of belief that I could do that, and I knew we were a tight band because we worked hard. We worked hard. Like
Mm.
we adopted a professional approach to being in a band. We didn't approach the band like where we were 16-year-olds having a bit of crack. We were like, guys, we got to make this work. There's
Mm.
millions other bands that are going for the same stuff we're going for. So there was a professional approach to how we went at things. But yeah, I do think, and there's also that trope that we throw out in our creativity that we're all just shoegazy, troubled people. Like
Yeah.
it's just hilarious. I mean, I see it on LinkedIn sometimes. I like LinkedIn is one of my favorite places to go for sociological observations. It is actually it's not a bad place because there's very little abuse in it, but
Yeah, that's true.
it,
Yeah.
it is basically the quintessential poster platform for neoliberalism. People
Mm.
just popping on like there's mental health groups. There's mental health groups and with hundreds of thousands of subscribers on LinkedIn. And when you actually go into them, they're productivity groups. Somewhere along the line, we've convinced people that mental health is about productivity.
Mm.
That's capitalism. And even the way we treat mental health in many ways within systems is how quickly can we get you back into work
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
can support the economy and you're not a drain on the economy. That's the mindset. So that's that like hyper capitalism,
Mm.
and people always say to me in my PhD research, like that the constant theme that comes up that we don't talk about really when it comes to mental health is the economy and how
Interesting.
the economy views this and how the economy that we all live in, and now I'm probably completely off track here, but I was asked a question today in an interview, do I think Western governments are ungovernable now? And I'm like, I do. And I don't think it's because politicians are all terrible people. I think it's because of the economic model that we're all aligned to, which is
Mm.
neoliberalism. It is the
Mm.
biggest rot.
Mm.
It is so effective. It's rotting us from the inside out. And it's not just rotting people, our economies and our governments. It's rotting us because everything has become individualism.
Like you said, all the structures are beginning to crumble because they're not working. And the only way I feel that we can come back is through community and through decentralization.
Yeah.
It has to be broken into smaller groups and people out away from screens and out in homes, in community halls, saying, what can we do here? Let's come
And
back
what does that
together.
look like? How does that get achieved?
Mm.
I think a lot of the real big researches that we see around mental health, there's a lot we don't know about it.
Mm.
There's a lot we will never know about the human mind. I don't think. I think we're so desperate to find ways to better support people. Like we see it everywhere, and like we see it in medicine, we see it in society. People want to do better for people who are
Mm.
struggling. Generally, they genuinely do. But I think what happens is I don't know if we'll ever truly understand the human mind. But there's lots we do understand about the human mind, that it thrives in community. It
Mm.
thrives in peer support. It thrives when you have emotional frameworks and scaffolding around it. And I think one of the issues with modern culture is that's becoming less and less relevant.
Mm.
And what we're seeing now are people, uh, to be perfectly blunt, very, very lonely.
Yeah.
And loneliness is it's poisonous. There's a poison to it. And in a world of 7 billion people, no one should ever be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that I kind of look at and think about a lot, rather than constantly just talking about the problem. Um,
Mm.
we have to look at well, how do we get away from this? And we can't control. I can't control. You can't control governments. We can vote for who we want to vote for, but ultimately, we can influence our communities.
It's a grassroots movement, I think, is what's needed. Like, and you talk about loneliness, it's a loneliness epidemic. I suppose that's happening at the moment. And it's a falsified connection, I feel, is what we have. So we're connected to our screens, we're connected to social media. We think that we're connecting to people that way, but it's a complete falsified connection.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's room for it too. I think this.
Mm.
I'm not the big bad. Oh, terrible social media is awful. There are elements to everything that are like probably quite effective and supportive. And
Mm.
I always say the funniest stuff I've ever seen in my life has been on social media. Like I've discovered amazing things on social media. I get the appeal of it.
Mm.
I'm part of it. I enjoy it sometimes.
Mm.
But ultimately, when you've allowed it replace the thing that to our deepest core of who we are is the most important thing. And some people talk with spirituality, whatever it means. It doesn't matter what it means to you. Whatever it means to you is there is something to believe that there's more than just us, that we are all interconnected, that we all require each other, that we all have to work together in some shape or form. Like the postman, the guy who works in Centra, like these are all people that influence me every single day.
Mhm.
And I don't think we think like that anymore. I think it's constantly what is in this for me
Mm.
agenda. We've become transactional. There's a brilliant book called the Neoliberal Self. And the idea is that we've taken the economy and we've made it us. We talk about ourselves like we're brands.
Mm.
What the fuck have we done to ourselves? We talk about
Mm.
Ireland. We call Ireland Ireland Incorporated. Could you imagine Michael Collins thinking that that's how we refer to Ireland now? That
Mm.
we're just, all we are is one big economy.
A brand, yeah.
And we're
Mm.
not an economy, on its own. We are a hugely rich historical place from ancient Ireland all the way up through the most traumatic history to liberation, to all that kind of stuff. That's what we are.
Mm.
And when we get referred to as a corporation, it pisses me off. And
Mm.
and even when politicians go, you know what I mean? No, no, I don't know. Don't refer to a country as a corporation.
Mm.
It's not right. So that's the stuff I think is actually underlying a lot around when we look at mental health, when people go, do we have a crisis? I don't like saying words like that one. So I've looked at 200 years of mental health intervention in Ireland, and I can tell you there's always been a crisis,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
if you want to call it that. But the crisis for so long was that we didn't address it. We didn't
Mm.
talk about it. We institutionalized it.
Mm.
So yeah, I think there's a lot. So what's the answer? That's what people keep saying to me.
Yeah,
What's the first step?
that was my next question for you. When you talk about coming back into community and connection, how would you visualize? Okay, I mean, if it was blue sky thinking, how would you visualize it?
Early prevention, early intervention.
Mm.
I say it for everything. We don't have a health system, we have a sick system. We wait for people to get to point of crisis before we intervene in this country.
Mm.
That is humanly expensive and economically expensive without sounding cold about it.
Mm.
But it is. It's cold. Or it's like the entire, if we want to make a big step forward in terms of mental health, we should be focusing on earlier intervention and prevention. Now, they're two slightly different things. Prevention is education. So that's what I do at Us for Life. We're in
Mm.
nearly 55% of Irish primary schools with free evidence-based mental health programs from first to sixth class. We've
Amazing.
just moved to secondary school. We're piloting now. It'll be the first program in the world that's globally from first class to leaving cert, a coherent program.
Mm.
Intervention is if that the person within that environment needs more support or more resources or more help. The idea of them waiting 2 or 3 years for that is just it's not good enough, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all it is. It's just not good enough. The difference it makes when you intervene early with somebody who finds their environment difficult, it changes their life forever, forever.
Yep.
It's not a we got them through school and now they're grand. You will change and influence their lives and their families and their communities for the rest of their lives if you
Mm-hmm.
intervene quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the core hypothesis of my research is does early prevention and early intervention basically disrupt our mental health system?
Mm-hmm.
Does it stop us mass medicalizing children? Because that's what we're doing. The CAMS reports, they used a word called polypharmacy. There was some children in Kerry put on 10 different types of medication without even being monitored. Now, I'm not talking about aspirin. I'm talking about serious, serious drugs that can have profound impacts. And we somehow found that something we should tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than going, we should be world leaders at early prevention and early intervention. That's what we should be doing. And we should be doing it now. And I know we are, but it's not easy work. It's still not seen as important, really. Like people don't get that early prevention, that's the solution. The solution is not waiting for people to get to a crisis and then going, let's do something about it. But we can't do anything for 3 years because we have a waiting list.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not right. And it's you don't need me to tell you on a podcast that's not right. If you think that's right, you probably should have a long, hard think about what your value system.
So if there's someone listening now, and we'll say who's a parent, thinking about their child that's in the school system, that doesn't know where to start, because it's very complex when they're very young, where would you say they start?
You see, this is the issue. We don't know. I would say CAMS. CAMS, if depending on what that issue is, the context is everything, and we know what the issue. It could be just that the kid's having a rough couple of weeks. It could be that they're not sleeping. It could be something else. It could be this, that, and the other. I ultimately think the best intervention for a child who might be finding things challenging is, psychological support.
Yeah.
Like, so let's find out what it is that this child is finding challenging. Because our immediate instinct is like, there's something wrong with the child, rather than maybe there's something wrong with their environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the parents are going through something difficult right now and they're not able to fully understand it. And maybe they need a bit of support here too. Maybe we should bring all of them together. But then we look at other things like, people then go, well, who can afford that?
Yeah.
And now we have a class issue and we have an issue with equality and equity. And these are the things that you have to think about when you come to effective mental health systems. It's so nuanced and it is so siloed right now. If this is you're over there, and the housing issues over there, and the mental health issues, but they're all linked. They're all linked. And I think we have to really understand that. And I find this really overwhelming trying to figure this out. And I
Yeah, it
don't have a
is.
clue either. I don't
Yeah.
have a clue.
Yeah.
I don't, people look at me and go, you must, when they say, oh, this is an area you understand. I don't. I don't. I'm looking at the system. I just know that the way we're doing it now doesn't work. And the most important thing we should be doing, not just as individuals, but as systems, is to admit when something doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe be a little braver here. Like maybe look at Ireland. And like when I look at Ireland, I think of five things. I think that we're a population of 5 million. So we're the size of Greater Manchester, or it's bigger than that. We are fairly, we're very sound. We're politically stable, relatively. We're very
Mm-hmm.
wealthy. And we say we care. Why don't we become the world leaders for this? Why don't we set the bar? Because no one really globally is doing this really well. Why don't
Mm-hmm.
we do it? Why don't we go, this is the system. This is how we created the system. What we do in Ireland all the time is what's stop looking to America for starters anyway. I think we've
Mm-hmm.
all got to the point where why are we look, what are the UK doing? What's the Nordic countries doing? What's France doing? Stop. What are we going to do? Stop looking for best practice all the time internationally and look what we can create with
Mm-hmm.
the academics like myself who are trying to figure out what it is that we do. There's so many of us that want to build a better system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about money. It's not just about funding. That is just too simple.
Mm.
It's about, so I'll give you an example, Hilary. If I if I said to you we're going to double the budgets, yeah, it'll definitely help. But if that budget's doing the same thing and it's mass medicalizing children, do you want more money doing that? Because that's what
Mm-hmm.
it'll just be more of that rather than going, no, we need an entire, as the Mental Health Commission said, a root and branch change.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Let's start again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the system. Let's look at all the aspects. How do we support the parents? How do we support the teachers? How do we support people that take care of our children?
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, how do we take care of the children?
Mm.
Um, so that's the stuff. And there are people willing to do that and people willing to work it. But then you get hit with things like bureaucracy and legal
Paperwork,
issues
just
and
yeah.
grey areas and
Mm.
all of this stuff and inertia. And then politicians say they'll do something and then they feck off 4 years later and you're stuck
Mm.
looking at the same thing. I've spoken to 5 mental health ministers and they've all said the exact same thing to me. And they, all decent people,
Mm-hmm.
all decent people, all I believe wanting to do something. But respectfully, I think they don't have a clue about
Mm.
the actual nuances of it and the fact that it's not just about more money. It's about how do we treat people who need help?
Mm.
How do we do it? When do we do it? And what is the aftercare system? All of that.
Mm.
So that's a big thing to come to the table with. But that's why I decided to do a PhD. Because I
Mm.
was like, I don't know the answer. I want to find a small answer that I can
Mm.
bring to the table.
And like you said, it's also about minding yourself in the process because all of that is so overwhelming. It can actually feel burdensome. I find
Yeah, it
that
is.
when you
But you
start
see,
to scratch the surface.
I'm dealing essentially, I think is important I deal with the systems. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
not working in a therapeutic environment with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Mm.
I'm looking at a system and how the system functions. So, like, say, maybe Jonathan Haidt, who wrote Anxious Generation, he does a social psychologist, so he looks at like the social aspects of psychology.
Mm.
He's not sitting, I imagine, in front of the children that he talks about.
Mm.
I think it must be very difficult and overwhelming to be in that profession. Those people are superheroes. Like they have to deal
Yeah. Yeah.
with the most vulnerable and they have to carry them through and guide them through. I'm looking at wider macro systems.
Mm.
And also I think I look at historical systems. And as I said to my mother, I think it's more depressing if we don't do this. I think it's more
Yeah.
depressing if we pretend there's no problem. It's
Mm.
grim if we just avoid it and move on. That to me is more depressing than actually dealing with it, even though the stories that we see and uncover are really overwhelming. Uh, and they are, especially the CAMS report. The CAMS reports by
Mm.
Dr. Susan Finnerty in 2023 and what we saw in the report that came out around South Kerry. Like, I mean, that brought me through everything. And I'm not a parent.
Mm.
I'm not a parent, but I swear to God, if someone did that to my child, I would be doing everything within my power to hold them accountable.
It's such a minefield. as a parent trying to balance all of this as well, because you're so emotionally attached to it all. Like you said, obviously you're dealing with systems and looking at potential outcomes, but yeah, as a parent, it
And also
is.
that our parents are also living in a crazy world right now. A
Yeah.
culture where they've gone through COVID, they've gone through, recessions. We've gone through wars, genocide, where we're watching every day. And that parent naturally is overwhelmed by all of that before they
Hmm.
even start. They're obviously priorities, take care of their family, but that all comes in on them too. And then maybe work
Yeah.
and then financial stress. Now they're looking at the price of petrol and they're like, oh my God. And their kid is, you know, in the midst of all that is probably experiencing that too. So it's just it's a really a quote that I like to use that I think is quite helpful for people is Krishnamurti. It's no measure of sanity to be well adjusted to an insane world.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
if you're overwhelmed by it, that's a healthy human response. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're
Mm.
you're just human, and we're all feeling it, and it ain't easy. But I tell you one thing: if you can, if you can connect with other people and talk about and talk it through, it will be helpful for you,
Mm.
because you will find that the vast majority of people are finding it difficult too, and there's comfort in that. Not to think that other people are struggling.
No,
There's people
absolutely.
that will help you.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like there's a deeper nervous system reset needed for everybody overall, and that is probably going to come through, like you said, communication and community. You know.
Well, like I just think the one line that I find kind of just almost jaw-droppingly not amusing, but it's just when I hear it, people go after COVID, people are like, oh, the kids are anxious. I'm like, of course they are. They've seen nothing but threat for 2.5 years. You've
Yeah.
utterly changed their natural trajectory as a human.
Mm,
What party doesn't think they shouldn't be a little anxious after all of
mm,
that?
mm,
And it's just stuff like that. I think if we can allow people understand that the way a lot of people are feeling is probably quite a fair response to it.
mm,
I think I know for me anyway, it makes it feel less like there's things about COVID that I haven't made sense of. Like it
mm.
just like a part of it, not just what happened to my uncle died of COVID. My aunties ultimately died because didn't go and get help, and there was huge grief through
Yeah.
COVID.
Hmm.
Not to mention that a lot of people I would have worked with left my profession. I couldn't work. I didn't have a job.
Hmm.
All of that stuff. But I think at the end of it all, there's also part of me is like thinking, Jesus, there's so many mad decisions in COVID that they haven't really explained to us, like €9 pub meals. And I'm thinking, it just feels like we've moved on. Nobody's
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah. Everybody just wanted to move on, I think, from it.
Avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. Just don't deal with it.
No accountability. It's and that to me is next level poison. Is no accountability in everything. You know.
Because it does like frustrate people.
Mm,
And we saw it, and these are things where people start realizing, what's this got to do with our mental health? Everything.
mm,
Like recessions, the people that cause recessions. You think they were held to account? Do you think they were punished really for it?
mm-hmm.
And I think what do you call it, CMAT's track was a really brilliant introduction to
Yeah.
a lot
Lovely.
of kind of generation who might have been young at the time, but like that line, like about dads,
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah. It
Like
did. It really hit me
people's
that line.
people's self-worth was wrapped up in, and especially you have to remember, like people who like us who are old, but during the recession.
Speak for yourself, Niall.
Well, I'm old. I'm 45. I remember this. Like I was in my prime, my recession. I had to move to London. I had no work here. I moved to London,
Wow.
and I do remember like the idea. Like we went from such extreme wealth
Mm.
and silly money, like silly, stupid money, where it was almost ignorant. I always said that Irish people, we're not great at being really wealthy. It doesn't really suit us. We're not old money. We're not like the Brits in London, the old
Yeah.
money of
I think we're getting better. I
Chelsea.
think we'll be better after this. But
Well,
I
I
think
don't
you're
know. I don't think we'll ever have that kind of old money
yeah long term wealth.
deal. But we went from that to just boom. And a lot of people who started businesses and were excited by them lost the businesses, and then their self-worth was wrapped up in that, and in their heads they couldn't provide properly for their families, and it was their
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So these are the things that, socially are so influential on how we feel mentally. And we separate them as if they're different things, and they are
Mm.
not. And I think it's important that when we talk about mental health, we talk about society, culture, and what surrounds us. we need to move away from this purely it's a brain thing,
Mm.
and the chemical imbalance stuff, which is a huge theory that we've always had, and more we're still looking for evidence around that. So it's an
Mm.
easy thing to say that you're broken because you can't cope with it. There's something wrong within you, and you can't cope with it.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
I'm kind of looking around and going, maybe, but look at the chaos,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
feel overwhelmed by it. And I think that to me is where we need to get to, and that's what the World Health Organization tells us. We have to move to a very strong psychosocial model of care.
Mm.
That's their opening line on how to write mental health policy. It has to be focused on psychosocial care.
Mm. Mm.
What's that mean to you? It doesn't mean let's put kids on 9 different types of medication. That's
Mm.
not what it means.
Mm.
And ultimately, in 1992, Ireland ratified the United Nations Right of the Child, where every child has a full legal right to the highest attainable mental and physical health.
I
And we
remember that.
preached it
Yeah.
every year since, not just in mental health, but in kids whose spines are in right angles. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of the wealthiest countries in Europe, and we either accept it or we do not. And I think and as I said, I'm not a parent, and it's just purely because to me, being a citizen of the state, I have a responsibility to the community of where I live, and as does everyone listening to this. We all have responsibilities.
Mm.
Uh, so that's kind of how I look at this stuff.
Do you take your responsibility into your creative work? Like, I suppose your current book and album of the same title, which is The Place That's Never Been Wounded. It's gorgeous. The album is so beautiful. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into the book. Do you take your creative responsibility seriously and try to bring it into your art now?
No, I separate them. I
Oh,
genuinely
interesting.
separate them. I
Okay.
don't. Ultimately, the album music, that's mine. It's my space. It's what I do. I love creating some. It's my way of communicating.
Mm.
Like I don't have this, for somebody who has talks about this, I do not have this language to be able to describe my inner world. I just don't
Mm.
have it. Like
Mm.
there are certain things that have happened to me and happen to me and certain experiences that I have that I'm not particularly good at communicating. And I find music a really effective way to do that. I
Mm.
always have. And I think especially with The Place That's Never Been Wounded, there are pieces of music on that album that basically is me trying to figure out how I feel about something. And to say
Mm.
The Midday Moon was about my mum nearly dying and the experience of that and watching it. And it was like a slow motion thing. And as I said, when your lens on life is grief,
Mhm.
everything else changes.
Yeah.
Nothing matters. Nothing else. The silly shit that you're stressed about becomes so pointless and irrelevant. So yeah, the album was for me. The fact that people get comfort from listening to it, that's a plus.
Mm.
That's exactly what I had hoped would happen because they get comfort from it because I think they know it's me trying to communicate something.
Mm.
And with the book, I kind of only wrote the book as a manual for the album.
Oh,
I
wow.
was
Okay.
I was getting a bit tired explaining what I was trying to do with the album, so I was like, oh, let's write a book. And I wrote a book, and they were just little personal stories. It is not a self-help book. It is not
Mm.
a wellness book. It is not a lecture.
Mm.
I don't speak whatsoever from a place of hierarchy, like I figured all this out. I really
Yeah.
have not.
Mm.
I speak
Mhm.
as your peer, as somebody who is navigating this shit with you.
Mm.
And maybe these are the things that, I may be saying things out loud that other people mightn't want to say or not, don't know how to say it. That's all
Like,
I'm doing.
like what? Can you give me an example of something that?
I mean, I think the area of grief is really an
Yeah.
interesting one. I think
Yeah.
grief is like I've read books on it, and I was like, I mean, they're nice books, but I was like, I didn't know. There's no framework for it.
Yep.
There's no
Yeah.
rules for it. There's no way of actually dealing with it until you have to deal with it. There's no
Yeah.
way of theorizing it, intellectualizing it. It is just something you have to feel fully.
And
And I don't.
my experience, sorry to interrupt you, but my experience of grief as well is that when I went through a very deep period of grief, back in our parents' and grandparents' generation, in my grandparents' time, they wore black when they were
Mm.
grieving. So it was a signal to people in society that they were grieving and that needed support. All of that is gone, alongside the conversation of grief in society as well. That's gone.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt it was so isolating to go through that. You know,
Yeah,
even
and I think people, ultimately, what I've learned is that when you're grieving or you're going through grief or there's an element of grief, and that's not just death of losing someone you love, it could be part of a way of living or part of your life, or
mm,
it could be a health thing. I think that's when people are at their best. I think that's when you see
mm,
people in their own way. They're not, you know, like most of us, they're not perfectly gifted and come up and go, I'm going to say the perfect right thing. I'm going to put my arm around you and I'm with you. Some people don't know how to do that or find that difficult or uncomfortable, but they do try and they come up and they might say something clunky and something awkward, but in your head you're going, they're trying here and they
mm,
are uncomfortable with my pain and that's fine. And and I think sometimes we talk about community. That's when I see it. I don't see it in. I've never felt awkward about grief, but
mm,
I've completely changed how I have navigated it, and I've
mm.
watched it in other people, and I've learned one thing and one thing only: there is no due process,
Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
waves that come with it,
yeah,
and there's waves where you lose your ability to breathe. There's waves when it's just a good feeling or it's a feeling of, it's a memory and it's a nice
yeah. Like
memory and it's a memory
bittersweet.
of
Yeah. Mm,
lightness and calmness and beauty. And then maybe 2 seconds later, you're gone again. And it's just this, there's no theme for it. And
mm,
I wrote about that in the book with, our experience of pregnancy loss. And the idea of it wasn't about
mm,
me wanting to be specific. The point I was trying to make is in the past, this was the thing that would have derailed me and it would have
mm,
left me and I would use this as an excuse to treat other people like shit. That's what I would have done. I would
mm,
have, I would have avoided it. I would have ran from it and I would have been difficult to be around.
mm,
And the point I was trying to make is now I'm going to walk right in the middle of it.
mm,
And I'm going to walk with it and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to express it. I'm going to support and I'm going to feel it. And I
mm,
think ultimately one of the things I didn't do in the past is feel things.
mhm,
And you have to feel them, even though they're terrifying, because you don't know what you're going to get. And
mm.
that's the difference. And I think this is the stuff, this is the big pulling up the big boy pants stuff. This is what you got to
Yeah.
do. This is philosophy. It's not psychology. It's not, it's just, to me, it's kind of making sense of the world and your place in it. And I think that is all the book is. I think when the publisher was like, oh, self-help, no, no, I thought the world doesn't need another self-help book, lads. We
Yeah.
really don't. We don't need another like top 5 ways to beat anxiety. These are all very well-intentioned, positive things. Don't get me
Mm.
wrong. I've zero issue with them.
When you talk about your North Star and your inner compass as well, what does that look like for you on a bad day? Like, what do you do to when you're feeling like, I kind of gone off the tracks here a little bit and not feeling great in myself? What's your North Star that you come back to?
Well, it depends if it's like there's different types of ones. There's just a bad day because you're tired and you're exhausted and you might be jet lagged. And then there's existentialism, which is like, what am I doing? Who
Yeah,
am I?
that's a
This where
whole other that's a
I
whole
get to
other
the
kettle
point
of
now
it.
where I actually start laughing at that. I'm like, oh my God, like I put on like an 80s power ballad and I just like I like who am I? The hilarity of it. You just feel yourself like you're like Ben Stiller and Zoolander or something. That's so being able to like my North Star is just there's one phrase that has always landed so well with me, and it was this will pass. It always
Yeah.
passes.
It,
And that's the theme of the book is impermanence. The entire
mm,
theme of the book is impermanence. Things change.
mm,
Happiness changes.
hmm
Sadness changes. Joy changes. Don't hold on to any of these things too tightly because the human condition is transient. It's always moving. Thoughts are
mm,
always moving. It's always dynamic. And there's that quote, Suzuki quote, open your front door, open your back door, let your thoughts walk through the house, just don't serve them tea. That's it.
beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
Buddhism. That is
Yeah.
mindfulness. That's all it is.
Mm,
It's the transience and impermanence of all of this stuff. And in the Noble Truths of Buddhism, they talk about the first noble truth being suffering is universal. The second noble truth is the idea that like most of our suffering comes from attachment and aversion.
hmm
What's that mean? We're attached to having things be nice all the time,
hmm
even though that's just not possible. And
hmm
we're averse to feeling anything negative or difficult.
hmm
Also not possible.
hmm
So they talk about the noble truths and nirvana is letting go of that, is understanding there are nice things that are going to happen to you that won't be nice forever.
Yeah.
And there's bad things that happen to you that won't be bad forever.
Mm.
And that's all it is. When you really grasp the power of impermanence, and that's how you approach those days. And when those great days happen and you're having an absolute fucking field day, your instinct should be go, it's going to be bad tomorrow. Don't
Yeah.
think like that. Just be
Yeah.
present with it.
Yeah.
It mightn't be. You could get lucky, you bollocks, and you could have 3 months of absolute highs and exhilaration without drugs. You could have the best time ever for three, and then you could have a bad day, or you could lose someone you love, or you could
It's like
grieve.
it's like the weather, you
That's
know?
it. Never changes. That's
Yeah.
it. And I mean, the problem is then, people look, well, the weather's been shit for 7 weeks. Now look at it now.
Yeah.
And I think people think that's, because when you say that to someone, you're not solving their problem. You're not giving them a fix. You're just
Mm.
giving them this is just the way it is.
Mm.
And I think so much of wellness and self-help is offering the solution. And
Mm.
I think, who am I to offer a solution when I know nothing about that person or what they've gone through or their past? And I think that's all it is. I think that's what I didn't want to do with the book. I didn't want to write it because I don't know. And I didn't feel it would feel authentic for me if I did that. I probably could do that.
So I suppose then, okay, you said it's like a manual to go with the album. I'm sure your PR team were like, that makes no sense. But
I
like
mean,
if you were
that's the thing. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they do. They were a little like, what do you mean? I went, well, it's context. The book is context. I wrote the album first.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
just
Yeah.
the reality. I'm a musician first. Like I would regard myself as a musician before I'd regard myself as an author.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I wanted it to make sense. I wanted to also write about these little moments of my life and how they related to each track. So every track's a chapter, essentially. That's what it is. Um, and I think also like, creativity is it's also subjective for me. It's what I wanted to do,
Hmm.
and I think also what we've created is, interestingly enough, in the creative world, I have quite an interesting experience with it because I've worked across music, TV, publishing, all these different areas.
Mm.
And one thing I've learned in the creative industry now is those that run it are far more interested in metrics than they are in the quality of the product.
100%.
The first question you will be asked the minute you walk in to any publisher
Mm.
or any record label is
What are
that,
your numbers?
what are your numbers? That's your first question. So the
Yeah.
quality of the product's two or three down the pecking order.
Yeah.
Could you imagine back in the 80s someone saying that to Prince?
I know. And do you know what's interesting? At the Pendulum Summit, where we bumped into each other recently, did you catch the first talk, Rory Sutherland?
Hey, I didn't because I had only arrived at, like, he was doing a marketing thing, wasn't it?
Oh my God, but it was so much more than that. It was the most incredible talk. He talked about metrics and he talked about creating your own metric. It was the one massive takeaway I took from the whole day.
But that's the
But
thing. Like, I think what we've done is in the same way we approach, you know, the corporate world. We've corporatized creativity. We've
mm,
turned it into a metric. We've turned it into a
mhm,
measurable. We've taken that wildness out of it,
mm,
that
that
absolute
maverick out of it as well.
maverickness. That's
Yeah.
what it is. That's what it's
Yeah.
meant to be. And we've
Yeah.
turned it into a metric. And it is exhausting to watch it.
Yeah.
And I really hope, and I do believe it will come back around. I think in 5, 10 years' time when AI is taken over, we'll be crying out for the deeply human stuff.
I mean, obviously I'm in the creative industry. I'm in I just don't think AI is gonna take over in the way that not in the creative industry because people
I don't think it can take over in terms of performance, of how you
mm,
perform and how you
mm,
connect with audiences and stuff.
yeah.
I think it's very much like, I think already you can see people fatigued with it
Yeah.
on social media. I
Yeah.
think there's definitely,
And if there's a question, sorry, and I'll interrupt you again, but if
oh
there's a
no, you're
question around it as well, like, oh, is that AI or not? People are clicking off. You know
yeah,
what I
and I
mean?
think it's interesting because I mean, I use AI for things like if I have a paper and I have to read the paper, I'm like, well, I want to get the gist, but I'm going to still have to read this paper because if the ChatGPT told me a few years ago that the Irish famine was 1992. Like, we got to be You know,
Really?
yeah, it's just like it's not always very accurate,
Yeah, yeah.
especially if you're doing something that's rigorous or requires, you know, that human eye.
Yeah.
It's really, really important. But in terms of creativity, I don't know where it's going to go, but I do think ultimately it was inevitable because when you have people that run the labels and the publishers and the people that put the creativity out there, when all
Mm.
they were looking at for the last number of years was metrics,
Yeah.
uh, it was inevitable that robots were going to take over because that's all
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just another version of AI is
Yeah.
just somebody going, well, what are your metrics? Where are your followers?
Mm.
Um, and what happens is what you're missing when you do that is you're missing the one thing that has made the music industry so exciting, and that's
Mm.
development. Finding
Mm.
an artist who has something, it's not quite there yet,
Mm.
but we're going to develop that artist till they find what it is they are. Perfect example, Hosier.
Yeah. Wow, yeah.
Hosier, when he was 16, came to London to our songwriting studio. And he wasn't sure what he wanted yet. His sound, he was trying to find the sound. We were the wrong guys, I'd say, for him. We were kind of pop guys. But we sat in the room going, I have never heard anything like this in my entire life. I've never
Wow,
heard a voice
that's
like it. I've
yeah.
never heard musicianship like it, maturity like it, lyric
Wow.
writing like it, nothing. And then 3 years later, I'm sitting in and I hear, take me to church. And like,
Wow. Yeah.
I was not surprised. And
Yeah.
a good manager, developed,
Mm.
developed, developed, developed. And I look at the industry now and I it probably wouldn't have happened to him because he is so exceptional.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine if he came in with a demo at 15 now, the first thing they'd look for is his social media numbers.
Crazy.
And it's just that I think the industry has always adapted. It's going to adapt again and it'll find
Mm.
its way. It will. But
I think
right
so.
now, yeah, it will. Creativity always will.
Mm.
And we'll always need it. And I also think it's very comforting for people. Creativity, I think, it's
Mm.
not just for those who make things, but those who listen to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's the building blocks of life across the board. Like I had this conversation with someone the other day, like everything you do is creative, from building your home to how you decorate it to the meal that you create. So it wins out every time.
People go, I'm not creative. You are. You
Yeah.
absolutely are. It's like that's how sometimes I say things like, I'm like I'm not particularly organized. I'm not. I'm just not that organized. I'm a bit scattered. But really, when you look at me and go, fucking organize that, I go, okay, I'll organize it. And it might take me longer, but I can still do it. I just think because I'm not as good at that, I shouldn't
Yeah.
do it.
I look
I
at
think
your
it's great.
website. I actually look at, I have to, well, I don't live with you, but I look at your website and I go, Jesus Christ, that's organized. Like
I know, but
everything.
that's not me doing it.
I know, but everything, but I mean, you had to create the content to put it there. I went, everything. Oh my God. Yes, yes, yes. It all made
No,
complete sense to me.
no, I am not organized. Honestly, like there could be weeks now outside. There could be 6 bins just lining up because I've got to put them out. Just
Oh,
shit like that.
oh dear.
Just stuff like that. Even things like the simple shit like
That's deal breaker stuff,
house
Bressie.
stuff. I'm terrible at house stuff. I'm terrible at. I just don't. I don't enjoy it. So I just say I'm terrible at it
Hmm.
rather than going. "Oh, no, just do it. Like just do it. It's put the bins out. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the thing. This is when people say they're not creative. I think it's in all of us. But some people, like I think, like how my mind would work, and do you know what I actually realize why creativity is so important for me? I said this already. My mind goes rogue and it goes off in places, and it's always done that. It always will do that.
Mm,
But when I occupy that with creativity, it
mm,
doesn't. It latches on to the creativity instead. So a
mm,
piece that I'm working on, and I go to bed and my head is racing. I will start to think of that piece, and maybe what could I put next? How should that flow? How should that feel? Can I add instrumentation here? And people go, "Oh, that's you thinking." It's so much nicer to think like that than to
mm,
think of the other stuff. And
mm,
that's what creativity does for me. It allows me latch on to things and focus my attention on that thing mentally when I have a bit of space to myself.
mm,
And that's really important to me. And I learned that, as I said at the start, I'm not great when I have time to think.
mm,
So what I try to do is I try to occupy that time with things I do like creativity, like people. I
mm,
love people. I really
mm,
do love people. I love certain people, obviously, but I love sometimes thinking about that.
mm.
and stuff like that. I think that's it. And these are just coping mechanisms that I have
Yeah.
learned over the years.
Have you ever lost your connection to music?
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. How'd that
Yeah.
happen?
I
Or like,
I
what did
think
it
it's
look
more
like?
confidence you lose than
Yeah.
connection
Interesting.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've lost confidence. I've been dropped and you're rejected, and it's part of what you do. It's a part rejection is a huge part of it. Like we've had
Yep.
labels drop me, managers drop me, publishers drop me, platforms drop me, and immediately you're like, I'm terrible. I shouldn't be doing this. Um, I probably embodied a lot of what it was said to me when I was younger that it's a waste of time. Is
Um,
musicians loser. I'm probably embodying the fact that you're often asked to do shows for nothing by a lot of people.
yeah. Mm,
Big events that have huge budgets, and all of a sudden there's just that you thrown in at the end. But you mind doing a few songs for us?
mm,
I think all of that, I embody it. And I then sometimes go through little bouts of insecurity with it. And
mm,
that's just normal. The same thing.
mm.
That's a normal experience, it's a human
Yeah.
experience. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
I feel a bit insecure with this. I feel a little wounded by it. Sit with it. This will pass.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I do with creativity, when it's not there, it's not there. Walk away from it. There's days you go, that's why people go, did you go away to write for 2 weeks? I went, no, because I could go away to write in 2 weeks and nothing will be there, and then I'll
Yeah.
feel worse.
Yeah.
I write when I feel like it's there. Like I have a
Yeah.
piano there, and I just turn to it and I go, right, I have something in my head. Bang.
Mm, mm,
I have no
mm.
rules for it, no ways of looking at it. But like everybody, even when I put out the piano album, I was like, objectively, I knew this was a nice piece of work.
Yeah. It's
I
beautiful.
knew people that had heard it. I was getting these great reviews, but of course, I was still going, people are going to think this is terrible.
Yeah, I know.
And that's
Yeah.
just, will always be the way. And then people are going, you know, I love it, or I've listened to it and I've listened to it so many times. I use it for this, I use it for that. And like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. And then
Mm,
you start getting confident again. And
yeah.
then you perform it live and you're like, right, no, I know what I'm doing.
Mm,
I've worked for this. And now I got to move on to the next album. And then you go through that process again. It's
yeah.
just,
It's a roller
I love it.
coaster. Yeah. I always feel like as an actor and a performer as well, it's like you can't be everything to everyone. That was something I had to learn really early on. You can't be everything to everyone, and equally, as long as I'm happy with the work that I'm putting out, that's my metric, that's my bar.
But that's like, and the thing is, it's, yeah, and I totally get it. It's just, I don't think our brains are designed to be so, um, to see so much of other people's perceptions
Oh
and
yeah,
to see
yeah,
their
yeah,
opinions. And also there's the whataboutery that you see online constantly. Like, well, what about this? What about, hold on a second, lads. Like,
mm,
this is one little social media post. You can't solve the entire global issue with one post.
mm.
And yeah, it's that stuff. So I just do not look at comments anymore. I just don't do it. I don't, because the good ones don't make me go, oh, amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah.
bad
Why would
ones,
you pay attention to the good ones
why do
and
I just
and the bad?
believe
Yeah,
in it?
yeah,
And the
yeah,
best way for me, and I'm sure for you, to see whether what you're doing has impact is when you do it live, when you do it in front of people.
yeah, yeah.
That's it. And don't get me wrong, I've had absolute shit show live shows as well, where you're like, oh my God, get me off the stage. But they're rare. And that builds you too. Like I've had shows where like, we should not be here. This is
Yeah,
awful.
and that's a learning in itself too.
Oh my God, that's the one that makes you. Like
Yeah.
that is a lonely place to be.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah,
I've been in certain stages. And I was like, this has to end.
yes. And you're like, I must fulfill the slot. I must finish up, and then I'm gonna
Well,
have a
even with
think about my life.
the zero, I mean, I remember the Blizzards were doing these like what we used to call toilet tours. And the toilet tours were just to show that you were willing to work.
Okay.
And the label sent us like on this tour of the UK, and we were playing like venues. I mean, one venue we went in, there was not one person there, not one person. And I said to the band, like, what do we do here? Like, what's the etiquette here? Do we play the
Yeah,
show?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
remember one of the lads go, we play the greatest fucking show we've ever played in Ireland.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we did.
yeah,
And that's how we coped. We were like, we are like the greatest band that ever existed, playing Hull on a Sunday night to zero people.
yeah.
Like the barman didn't even stick around. He just was out there something else. But that's it.
I had that experience as well. I did a play in Dublin, and it was I think it might have been a bank holiday or something. and it was 5 minutes to showtime. And one person came in because we were like, please let nobody come in and we'll just go, you know. And one person came in right as it was curtain opening, and we went, okay. And I have to say, it was one of the best experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
It was amazing.
It's how do you approach it? Like, what do you do? Do you go like, like I'm sure that one person was like, "Oh my God," at the start, and then was like, "No, fuck it, let's just go with this. Let's flow. Let's give it a shot."
Yep.
And I think it's these are the things within the worlds that we work in that ultimately define you.
Mm.
It is part of it, and I think I've been lucky that I suppose given what I've gone through in life, I've had the skills to cope with these moments.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I never saw what I went through as wasted time. It was like a training ground. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's it. I think like that's the thing when as I done this work for so long, I don't know the answers.
Mm.
I just don't. I know what works for me. I know I've submerged in psychology and sociology for 12 years now.
Mm. Mm.
And I still have more questions than I have answers. But
Mm.
one thing I know for certain is I don't think people are all as bad as we think they are. I think people generally, when you bring them down and they have their needs met, I think people, and even those who don't, I think there's a quote that I used that I made up that 99% of people on planet Earth are sound, but for some reason we only ever hear about the 1% of fucking arseholes all the time.
Mm. Mm.
That's
Mm.
it, because the currency of social media is division. Doesn't work without it. So we just
Mm.
assume that the world is just this brutally divided place. But then when you
Mm.
get out into the community, you realize it's not so divided. You know, when you meet somebody where they're at, you start to realize the world isn't X. The world isn't run by empty, vacuous, you know, fuck nuggets like Elon Musk, who tells us the biggest threat to Western democracy or European democracy is empathy.
Mm.
It's not
Mm.
like, yes, these are deeply wealthy people with power, but they don't influence the lad you go out to meet and chat on the street to, that gives you a bit of comfort because he says something nice about your shoes.
Mm.
He doesn't give a fuck about them.
Mm.
Ultimately, you know, I think that is what I've learned is I've started to reconnect with those people. The guy who tells me I have nice shoes.
Exactly. And that everybody's just doing their best. That's what I keep coming back to, you know, because I've got small kids and I go, they're doing their best. Everyone's just doing their best. Everyone's doing their
Yeah,
best. Benefit of the
even with the
doubt.
kids, I'm like, let them be kids, lads.
Yeah.
Let them
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
up. Let them find their feet. Don't try to fix every problem they have. You
Yeah.
know, don't fill their time with things.
Mm.
You know,
Let them be bored as well.
I was in for St. Patrick's Day. I was in a pub in Mullingar, and my neighbour came up to me and goes, "Do you remember that day that me and my brother pushed you in a pram down the hill, Ballinderry Hill, and you got hit by a car?"
Gee.
I was like, I remember the story and the fact they totaled my pram, but I was ultimately some ways miraculously survived it. I remember thinking to myself, fucking hell. I said, Mom, where were you? Like, genuinely, where
Yeah.
were you in the midst of all that? She goes, I had five of you little shits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your dad was overseas because he was in the army.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I said,
Okay.
I had no idea you were being pushed under a hill in a pram at like 40 kilometers an hour. And I was thinking, you know, well, ultimately, I think it probably did me no harm. That's the philosophy they all have. I said, it might have been the tin meatballs and ravioli you fed me for 15 years, but anyway. But I do think there's a fear factory for parents where we're telling them they should be fearful all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's overwhelming.
It
I have a
is.
lot of empathy for parents, like to hear that all the time. And then to see other parents doing an unbelievable job.
But I think, okay, the unbelievable job thing looking at other parents is they're going through the same experience you're going through. They just maybe have makeup on and a smile
Yeah,
plastered on the face because everyone's going through it in some shape or
but
form,
it
I would
can't be
suggest.
easy. It
Yeah.
just can't be easy. It's just like the thing is that I always think that the level of responsibility and everything that
Mm.
comes with it, like, and yeah, that's the thing I say to parents. I was just like, you know, this fear, this constant fear that we feel, this threat that we feel because everything we see all the time is telling us that. Um,
Mm.
the reason I told the story about the pram is like it's probably a terrible example to use, but like my mum never once just felt that the entire world was a place of threat for me.
Yeah.
She
Mm.
allowed me find my feet, be in nature, and probably too much, but this threat wasn't the lens on how every parent looked at the world in the 80s
Yeah.
and 90s.
Yeah, I
And it's the
agree.
lens on how we view the world now. And I understand that because it's
Yeah.
all we see.
Mm.
Everywhere we see news, social media, threat,
Mm.
threat, threat.
Mm.
So it's completely acceptable and understandable that we embody that. Um,
It's
and we
so
fight.
debilitating. I mean, I was the
Yeah,
same.
and
I was,
that's
I,
anxiety. That's what it is.
yeah, I was free range as a kid, and I had the most amazing childhood because of it. Up trees, 10 o'clock at night, whatever, you
Over
know.
in 14 layers of horse shit when you come home.
Yeah,
And
literally
I
in my
remember
case, yes.
stories. I remember the other one. I did the worst cut you've ever seen inside of my leg. Like I jumped over a barbed wire, and my parents were having a bit of crack with their mates they were having a barbecue in the back garden, and I came in and was like white as a ghost. I remember so clearly my parents going, and I was like, they're going to call the ambulance first thing, and my dad just looked at my mum. He was like, "Do we have any plasters?" I was like, I ultimately ended up got 32 stitches. Like, I was like, "Do we have any plasters?" I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" I am bleeding out here. I'm going
Oh my God.
and then mum was like, "Oh, well, I've been drinking." And, and I make my parents, I have the best parents you've ever
Of
met. Like my
course,
parents,
yeah.
unbelievable parents. But I just remember them looking at each other going, "Oh, fuck, we better bring her to the hospital."
Yeah.
So, thanks, lads. Appreciate it. And then they stitched me up and the doctor, I still have this huge scar on the inside of my leg from that. I just think that the view, as I said, that was not the view and how my parents saw the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because they didn't have phones, they didn't have social media, they watched RT1, RT2.
Mm.
That was it.
It's
That's all
beautifully
they saw.
sheltered in a way, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
they saw nothing. And, I think that to me is I have a lot of empathy for parents, but I do come back to that idea that we need to be this performative culture that we've created.
Mm.
I keep using quotes and stuff, but I do think they're helpful. Irving Goffman said it's the presentation of everyday self. We have two types of self. We have the front stage self, which is that when we perform for the world, and we have our backstage self. And he
Mm.
says that most of our overwhelm and emotional turmoil comes when they're hugely apart.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You can bring them together. The more you bring them together, the more you feel at ease in your environment.
Mm.
And I think that we just perform for the world
Mm.
because we think the world is LinkedIn
Mm.
and it's not. And saying all that, I'm weirdly enough, given the work that I do, I'm an immensely optimistic person.
Good.
I always had optimism,
Mm.
and that's different to positivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Optimism is
Optimism is
just
the belief that if something's going wrong, it won't be wrong forever.
yes,
That's
and the
optimism.
willingness to find solutions.
Yeah, and
Mm.
also not to see the shittest part of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Not that
Mm.
I just don't see that. Even a person who's done shit, I refuse to believe that that's ultimately who we are. And I think positivity sometimes can be very positive and very good, but sometimes it's blinding you to the reality
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm.
maybe this isn't particularly positive. Maybe this is really negative right now.
Mm.
But an optimist goes, it won't be negative forever.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at things. And I think it's a different approach, but I yeah, as I said, that's how I approach things.
Mm.
And I don't have the answer. I know music has been certainly helpful for people with this album, and I think that's one thing I'm happy about because it's not me telling people how to feel, it's letting them make up their own mind.
I love it. I'm going to try and get to see it live. You're currently on tour with it, and you can find all the dates on your website.
But down in St. Luke's in
Oh,
your neck of the woods, I've never played it.
so beautiful. Live at St.
Beautiful.
Luke's is it's amazing. So I literally grew up the road from it. So that is my hood, and every time there's a gig on, I try to get to a gig there. It's really stunning. It's a deconsecrated, I think it's Church of Ireland. Yeah, it's Church of Ireland, deconsecrated church. It's just so incredible.
I
I'll
actually
be
think
crying. I'll probably be crying. Sorry.
there's nothing wrong with tears, but I do find that most of my shows in churches are there's something to them. I'm playing the Cathedral in Mullingar as well, which is a
Oh,
huge
gorgeous.
place. And I think these places, even the places that are still places of religious worship,
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of the bishops and the priests around Ireland have a duty of care to use these beautiful places as places of secular spirituality and connection and community. He's a
Absolutely.
massive, beautiful church in the middle of Mullingar that is just so huge and beautiful.
Mm,
And the first thing you see when you drive into our town, I just said, these places should be places. The most Christian thing we can do is to create community and a welcome community for everybody, for
yeah.
anybody who mightn't be religious, who might be
Hmm.
religious, who might have a certain different approach to religion, even to the people you might have fundamental disagreements with.
Hmm.
I think these places, these huge, beautiful buildings in Ireland that maybe not as busy and as dynamic as they once were, should be used as spaces of community. And it should also respect that they're also places of worship for people as well.
Yeah, they're sacred,
They're
but
still say these are,
there's, yeah,
I think you can do both. And I think that's
I
ultimately,
absolutely agree. Yeah,
I
I
think we
agree.
should do both. And I think
Yeah.
I have a very complicated relationship with the institutions of the church,
Mm.
but I respect faith. I always have. If somebody has faith, who am I to tell them otherwise? And I think that's actually in one way I envy it.
Yeah, faith comes in every form. Like I was raised Catholic. I don't necessarily consider myself religious. I don't, practice, but I have such a deep faith. And it only emerged, through crisis a couple of years ago. And it's been the most beautiful journey for me.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
people find it really comforting. I think for
mm,
me, it I suppose spirituality is. I think what was it that a friend of mine said that he thinks institutional religion destroyed spirituality, right? Because it made it a rule.
well, I guess the way to look at it would be that you don't need religion for spirituality, but you do need spirituality for religion. So
Yeah,
once you deconstruct the religious construction, spirituality is still there regardless. So I think
yeah.
that's,
I think the one word in the midst of all of that I think has created the disparities and issues is power.
mm,
There's a lot of
mm,
power.
hmm,
Unfortunately, power tends to sometimes not be used for the right thing. And I think
absolutely.
ultimately, I think if somebody has faith, whether it's Jesus, whether it is Buddha, whether it is Hindu, whether it is just that they think we're all connected,
Yeah. I got the whole gang going on. I got the
yeah,
whole gang.
the whole
My
gang.
altar's got the whole gang up there.
Good. Yeah, well, I put them all up there. I don't have an altar yet, but anyway. But I do think,
uh,
yeah, I love playing those in places, environments, and I always respect them.
Beautiful. Well, I hope to be there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Come, let me know you're coming, and
yeah.
you can come in as my guest.
Oh, you won't miss me. Oh, thank you very much, but you won't miss me. I'll be crying.
No, no, there might be a few. There tends to be
Yeah.
one or two.
Can we, Niall? I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful just to pick your brains on all of this. Can we do quick fire round? A live wild quick fire
Yeah, you
round?
can. You can. I don't know how quick. I always find my quick fire rounds aren't. I'm too introspective, but I'll try to be really quick and just
Okay.
think about it.
Do you believe in magic?
Yes,
If you were to distill yourself down to an essence, what would that essence be?
kill myself down to essence. Empathetically stubborn.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Yeah, got it. Nice. What do you stand for?
I was raised to. I was properly, and I mean this, raised in every conceivable way to believe everyone's equal.
Hmm.
So I believe that we're all born equal.
Hmm. What's the one thing you do every day that helps you live wild and free, seeing as it's the Live Wild podcast?
One thing I do every day that I suppose I adore animals.
Hmm.
Um, I think I spend a good body of time unconditionally with an animal.
Hmm. Gorgeous. Hmm.
That sounded kind of weird, but I mean, as my dog, and just hang out with animals and lie beside them. But I
Well,
massively enjoy animals' company.
it's okay to hang out and lie beside animals as well. I do the same. Got a couple of cats. They're
Oh,
awesome to hang out with.
don't mention the cats. I
Why?
love cats.
Oh,
My cats are I've had cats all my life. I always know where you stand with a cat. That's what I love about them.
that's 100%. I've
They're
learned
also they're quite affectionate cats.
they really are. I've learned so much from my cats. I've learned so much about like self-love and boundaries from my cats.
Yeah,
They're
yeah. But also like
remarkable.
I've learned that at times if I leave a foot hanging over a bed, that's the end of my foot.
Yes. You don't mess with a cat either.
No, you got to know where to put your feet.
Yep. A cat would kill a dog on a good day.
No, you know, a cat would kill a dog by exhausting it. That's what I do. You just can't catch a cat. So they're very clever.
They're awesome. They're seen as the spiritual mops of homes.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting them.
I mean, it doesn't sound very good, but I'm sure there's a better phrase that I could give my poor cats. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I think they're more affectionate than we give them credit for.
Yeah, they're awesome. Niall, thank you. It's been a joy. I've really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care of yourself.
Mind yourself. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Live Wild. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure to follow the show and share it with someone who might need it today. And if you'd like to go deeper, you'll find all my work for now on Instagram at @HilaryRose and on my LinkedIn page, with links to both in the show notes, from keynote speaking and corporate facilitation to one-to-one consultations. You can also find details on upcoming events, workshops, and everything happening in the Live Wild community. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional, medical, or therapeutic advice. Thank you for being part of this community. Stay curious, stay courageous, and as always, live wild.